The desert heat shimmered across the forward operating base as Commander Jake Morrison adjusted his tactical vest and surveyed the assembled sniper teams. Camp Whiskey sat like a fortress of steel and sand in the heart of Afghanistan's most dangerous province, where the Taliban moved like ghosts through mountain passes and ancient trade routes. The morning briefing had been brutal. Intelligence indicated a high-value target would be moving through the Korangal Valley within the next 72 hours, and every available marksman had been called to prepare for what promised to be one of the most challenging operations of the deployment. Morrison had seen his share of combat in 15 years with naval special warfare, but the current mission parameters made even his experienced hands tense slightly around his coffee mug. The target was Ahmad Nazir, a bomb maker whose improvised explosive devices had killed dozens of coalition forces and hundreds of civilians. Nazir had evaded capture for 3 years, moving between safe houses with the precision of someone who understood exactly how special operations forces tracked their prey. This time, however, signals intelligence had provided a narrow window of opportunity. The commander's weathered face bore the marks of countless missions, from the mountains of Afghanistan to the deserts of Iraq and the jungles of South America. His gray eyes missed nothing as they swept across the collection of snipers, forward observers, and support personnel gathered in the operations tent. These were some of the finest marksmen in the world, drawn from Marine Scout snipers, Army Special Forces, and his own SEAL teams. Each had proven themselves in combat, but the mission ahead would test every skill they possessed. Among the assembled personnel, Morrison's attention was drawn to a figure that seemed somehow out of place. Not because of any lack of professionalism or preparation, but because of an almost supernatural stillness that surrounded her. Staff Sergeant Elena Vasquez stood with her back straight, her dark hair pulled back in regulation style, her hands clasped loosely behind her back. Her gear was immaculate, every piece of equipment positioned with the precision of someone who had learned that attention to detail could mean the difference between life and death. What caught Morrison's eye wasn't her appearance, but rather the way the other snipers unconsciously gave her space. It wasn't fear or disrespect, but rather the kind of deference reserved for someone whose reputation preceded them. The commander had heard whispers about Vasquez during the pre-deployment briefings, stories that seemed too extraordinary to be true, yet came from sources too credible to dismiss. Tales of impossible shots taken in impossible conditions, of targets eliminated from distances that pushed the boundaries of what was considered feasible. Morrison had served alongside many exceptional operators, but there was something different about Vasquez's presence. She carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced death so many times that it no longer held any mystery. Her eyes, when they briefly met his across the tent, held a depth that spoke of experiences most people couldn't imagine. The commander found himself curious about the woman who had reportedly become something of a legend among the special operations community. The mission briefing began with satellite imagery of the target area. The Korangal Valley stretched like a scar across the Afghan landscape, its rocky terrain offering countless hiding spots for insurgents and endless challenges for the forces trying to root them out. Major Harrison, the intelligence officer, pointed to a series of compounds scattered along the valley floor. Each represented a potential location where Nazir might appear, and each would require precise coordination between ground forces and overwatch positions. Morrison listened as Harrison outlined the various scenarios they might face. Nazir traveled with a small but heavily armed security detail, and intelligence suggested he had been meeting with other high-value targets to plan a series of coordinated attacks against coalition forces. The window for interdiction was narrow. Miss this opportunity, and Nazir would likely disappear into the tribal areas along the Pakistani border, where even the most sophisticated surveillance assets couldn't track him. The complexity of the operation became clear as Harrison detailed the terrain challenges. The valley was a natural fortress, with high ridgelines providing excellent observation points but limited routes for insertion and extraction. The wind patterns were unpredictable, shifting without warning as air masses moved through the mountain passes. Temperature variations between day and night were extreme, affecting everything from equipment performance to ballistic calculations. Morrison's mind worked through the tactical problems as the briefing continued. They would need multiple overwatch positions to cover all possible escape routes. The distances involved would push even the most advanced sniper systems to their limits. Environmental factors would change rapidly, requiring constant adjustments to firing solutions. Most challenging of all, they would be operating in an area where the enemy knew the terrain intimately and had prepared defensive positions over years of conflict. As the formal briefing concluded, Morrison found himself studying the assembled snipers with new appreciation. Each would be operating under extreme pressure, potentially taking shots that would be analyzed and debated for years afterward. The margin for error was non-existent. Success would save lives and deal a significant blow to enemy operations. Failure would likely result in Nazir's escape and continued attacks against coalition forces and Afghan civilians. The commander dismissed the main group but asked the team leaders to remain for additional planning. As the tent emptied, he noticed that Vasquez lingered near her equipment, methodically checking each component of her sniper system. Her movements were economical and precise, the actions of someone who had performed these tasks thousands of times but never allowed routine to replace thoroughness. Morrison approached her position, curious to observe her preparation routine firsthand. The weapon system she was working with was impressive even by special operation standards. The Barrett MRAD, or Multi-Role Adaptive Design Rifle, represented the cutting edge of precision shooting technology. Capable of engaging targets at extreme range with multiple calibers, it was a weapon system that demanded exceptional skill from its operator. Vasquez's hands moved over the rifle with the familiarity of a concert pianist touching familiar keys. She checked the scope mounting, verified the zero, examined each round of ammunition for defects that might affect accuracy. Her attention to detail was remarkable, but what struck Morrison most was the almost reverent way she handled the weapon. This wasn't just equipment to her. It was a precision instrument that she understood on an intimate level. The commander found himself remembering the reports he had read about Vasquez's previous deployments. The numbers were staggering. Confirmed eliminations at distances that seemed impossible. Enemy positions neutralized with single shots in conditions that would challenge the most advanced technology. Target packages completed with an efficiency that had earned her recognition at the highest levels of Special Operations Command. What the reports didn't capture was the human cost of such precision. Morrison had known many exceptional snipers throughout his career, and he understood that the psychological demands of the role could be crushing. The isolation, the responsibility, the knowledge that lives depended on split-second decisions made under extreme stress. Some operators thrived under such pressure, while others eventually broke under its weight. As Vasquez continued her preparations, Morrison noticed something that made him pause. Attached to her gear was a small chain, and hanging from it was what appeared to be a commemorative coin. Such coins were common in military culture, often given to recognize exceptional service or significant achievements. But there was something about this particular coin that seemed different, though from his position he couldn't make out the details. The afternoon brought additional intelligence updates and final mission preparations. Morrison spent hours coordinating with helicopter crews, ground forces, and intelligence assets. The operation would begin before dawn, with insertion teams moving into position under cover of darkness. Overwatch positions would be established on multiple ridgelines, providing interlocking fields of fire across the valley. Each sniper team would be responsible for specific sectors, with primary and alternate targets assigned based on the most likely scenarios for Nazir's appearance. Communication protocols were rehearsed repeatedly, ensuring that target identification and engagement authorization could be transmitted clearly even in the chaos of combat. Weather forecasts were analyzed down to hourly predictions for wind speed and direction. As the sun set behind the mountains surrounding Camp Whiskey, Morrison made his final rounds among the sniper teams. Each was engaged in last-minute preparations, checking equipment and reviewing target packages. The weight of the coming mission was evident in their focused intensity, but Morrison was confident in their abilities. These were professionals who had trained for exactly this type of operation. When he reached Vasquez's position, she was seated cross-legged on her sleeping bag, her rifle disassembled for final cleaning. Her movements were meditative, each component receiving careful attention before being reassembled with practiced precision. Morrison watched for a moment before speaking, struck by the contrast between her peaceful demeanor and the deadly purpose of her preparations. The conversation that followed would stay with Morrison for years afterward. Vasquez spoke quietly about the responsibility she felt toward the ground forces who would be depending on Overwatch protection. She talked about the families of soldiers who wanted their loved ones to come home safely, and about the Afghan civilians who deserved to live without fear of roadside bombs and terrorist attacks. What impressed Morrison most was her perspective on the upcoming mission. She didn't speak about personal glory or professional advancement, but rather about the larger purpose that drove her dedication to perfection. Every detail mattered because other people's lives depended on her performance. Every hour spent in training and preparation was an investment in outcomes that extended far beyond her own career. As the night wore on, Morrison found himself drawn into a conversation that revealed the depth of Vasquez's commitment to her craft. She spoke about ballistics calculations with the passion of a mathematician, discussed environmental factors with the knowledge of a meteorologist, and analyzed human behavior patterns with the insight of a psychologist. The precision shooting role demanded expertise across multiple disciplines, and she had clearly mastered them all. The conversation eventually turned to previous deployments, though Vasquez was characteristically modest about her achievements. She spoke instead about lessons learned, techniques refined, and the evolution of sniper tactics in response to changing enemy behaviors. Morrison recognized the marks of someone who approached their profession with both humility and relentless pursuit of improvement. When Morrison finally left her to complete her preparations, he carried with him a new understanding of what made exceptional operators truly exceptional. It wasn't just natural talent or intensive training, though both were certainly important. It was the combination of technical mastery, psychological resilience, and unwavering commitment to the mission and the people it served. The final hours before mission launch passed quickly. Morrison reviewed communication protocols with the command post, confirmed coordination with air assets, and conducted final equipment checks with each sniper team. The weight of command settled on his shoulders as he considered all the variables that could affect the operation's success. Weather, enemy activity, equipment reliability, human performance under stress, all would play a role in the coming hours. As the teams prepared to move to their insertion points, Morrison took a moment to observe the controlled chaos of a special operations launch. Helicopters were being pre-flighted by crews who understood that mechanical reliability could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophe. Intelligence personnel were providing last-minute updates on enemy positions and movement patterns. Medical personnel were preparing for potential casualties while hoping their services wouldn't be needed. In the midst of all this activity, Morrison's attention was again drawn to Vasquez. She stood with her team, rifle case slung across her back, ready to move out for what could be the most challenging shot of her career. Her calm presence seemed to radiate confidence to those around her, a reminder that even in the face of extreme danger, professionalism and preparation could overcome seemingly impossible odds. The mission was about to begin, and Morrison knew that in the coming hours, the skills and dedication of every team member would be tested to their limits. The fate of the operation, and potentially the lives of many coalition forces and Afghan civilians, would depend on their ability to perform flawlessly under the most challenging conditions imaginable. The Chinook helicopter lifted off from Camp Whiskey at 0300 hours, its twin rotors cutting through the cold mountain air as it carried the sniper teams toward their insertion points. Morrison sat in the aircraft's red-lit interior, studying the faces of the operators around him. Each was lost in their own pre-mission routine, checking equipment one final time or reviewing target data on waterproof cards. The steady thrum of the engines provided a backdrop to thoughts that ranged from tactical considerations to memories of home. Vasquez sat across from Morrison, her rifle case secured between her knees and her gear arranged with characteristic precision. Even in the dim lighting, the commander could see the focus in her eyes as she mentally rehearsed the challenges ahead. The insertion point for her team was the most demanding of the operation, requiring a rope insertion onto a narrow ridgeline nearly 8,000 feet above sea level. From there, they would have to move 3 kilometers across treacherous terrain to reach their Overwatch position. The helicopter's crew chief signaled 10 minutes to the first drop zone, and Morrison felt the familiar tightening in his stomach that preceded high-stakes operations. 20 years of military service had taught him to use pre-mission anxiety as fuel for heightened awareness, rather than allowing it to become paralyzing fear. Around him, the other passengers began their final preparations, adjusting equipment and reviewing hand signals one last time. The first insertion went smoothly, with Team Alpha fast roping onto a rocky outcropping that would provide overwatch for the valley's eastern approaches. Morrison watched through night vision goggles as the four-man team quickly established security and began their movement toward their assigned position. Their discipline was evident in the way they moved, each operator covering specific sectors while maintaining formation integrity across the broken terrain. Team Bravo's insertion followed 15 minutes later at a position overlooking the main road through the valley. These snipers would be responsible for covering any vehicle movement, and their position offered excellent visibility across several kilometers of potential target area. Morrison knew that the success of the entire operation might depend on their ability to identify and track Nazir's convoy before it could escape into the maze of side valleys that branched off from the main route. The third insertion point was the most challenging. Team Charlie, which included Vasquez, would be positioned on a knife-edge ridge that provided commanding views of the target compounds, but required a dangerous approach through unstable scree fields. The helicopter pilot had to hover in shifting wind conditions while the team prepared for their insertion, and Morrison could see the concentration on the aircrew's faces as they fought to maintain position. Vasquez was the first to hook up to the fast rope, her movement smooth and confident despite the aircraft's movement in the unpredictable mountain winds. Morrison watched as she descended into the darkness, her rifle case and pack making her silhouette unmistakable against the rocky terrain below. Her teammates followed in rapid succession, each disappearing into the night with the efficiency that marked elite operators. As the helicopter banked away from the insertion point, Morrison caught a glimpse of the team's infrared strobes through his night vision device. They were already moving toward their assigned position, navigating terrain that would challenge even experienced mountaineers. The commander felt a surge of confidence knowing that such professionals were taking their positions across the valley. Whatever challenges the coming hours might bring, they would be met by operators who had trained extensively for exactly these conditions. The command helicopter proceeded to Morrison's position on a central ridgeline that would allow him to coordinate between the various sniper teams. From this vantage point, he could monitor communications and provide tactical direction as the situation developed. The insertion was conducted with the same precision as the others, though Morrison's role as mission commander meant his position was more heavily fortified with communication equipment and additional personnel. The pre-dawn hours passed slowly as each team reported reaching their assigned positions. Morrison monitored the radio traffic, noting the professional calm in each transmission. Teams reported clear fields of fire, confirmed their target reference points, and conducted final equipment checks. The stage was set for what promised to be a complex and dangerous operation. As the first light of dawn began to illuminate the eastern ridgelines, Morrison received the intelligence update he had been waiting for. Signals intercepts indicated that Nazir's convoy had departed its overnight location and was moving toward the valley. The timeline was accelerating, and within the next 2 hours the teams would likely have their first opportunity to engage the high-value target. Team Charlie's position required them to traverse a particularly dangerous section of terrain in the growing daylight. Morrison monitored their progress through periodic radio checks, aware that their success could be crucial to the mission's outcome. The ridgeline they were crossing had been shaped by centuries of erosion, leaving behind a landscape of loose rock and steep drops that demanded constant vigilance. Vasquez's voice came across the radio with updates on their movement, her tone calm and professional, despite the obvious challenges they were facing. Morrison could hear the controlled breathing that indicated physical exertion, but there was no suggestion of concern or uncertainty in her communications. The team was maintaining their timeline and would be in position well before the expected target arrival. The intelligence picture continued to develop throughout the morning. Unmanned aerial vehicles provided real-time surveillance of the road network, tracking multiple convoys that might contain the target. The challenge for the sniper teams would be positive identification before engagement, ensuring that they struck the correct target while avoiding civilian casualties. The rules of engagement were strict, and Morrison knew that every shot would be scrutinized afterward by multiple levels of command. By mid-morning, all teams had reported reaching their final positions. Morrison studied the tactical display in his command post, noting the interlocking fields of fire that the snipers had established across the valley. The positioning was textbook perfect, with multiple engagement opportunities and overlapping coverage that would make escape extremely difficult once the target was identified. Team Charlie's position was particularly impressive from a tactical standpoint. Vasquez had positioned her team on a narrow ledge that provided an unobstructed view of the primary target compound while remaining concealed from observation from the valley floor. The angle of their position would allow for precise shots even if the targets attempted to use buildings for cover. Morrison recognized the tactical expertise required to identify such a position and the physical skill needed to reach it. The first convoy appeared on the road network at 1100 hours, but surveillance assets quickly determined it was a civilian transport carrying local farmers to market. The second convoy, appearing an hour later, consisted of Afghan National Army vehicles conducting a routine patrol. Morrison felt the tension building as each false alarm reminded everyone of the narrow window they had for engaging the correct target. The critical moment came at 13:30 hours when overhead surveillance identified a convoy matching the intelligence profile for Nazir's security detail. 3 vehicles moving in tactical formation with the characteristic spacing and movement patterns of a high-value target transport. Morrison immediately alerted all sniper teams and began coordinating for positive identification before any engagement authorization. Vasquez's team had the best observation angle on the convoy as it approached the target compounds. Her calm voice provided a running commentary on vehicle positions and occupant behavior that painted a clear picture for the entire task force. Morrison found himself impressed by her ability to maintain such detailed observation, while simultaneously calculating firing solutions for multiple potential scenarios. The convoy's behavior confirmed intelligence estimates as it approached the primary compound. Security vehicles took overwatch positions while the center vehicle moved directly to the building where Nazir was expected to meet with other terrorist leaders. Morrison felt his pulse quicken as the operation moved from preparation to execution phase. Positive identification came through signals intelligence as communications intercepts confirmed Nazir's presence in the target vehicle. Morrison immediately cleared the sniper teams to engage upon receiving clear shots on authorized targets. The rules of engagement required visual confirmation and minimization of civilian casualties, but the authorization meant that the long hours of preparation were about to culminate in direct action. Vasquez's voice came across the radio with a precision that would become legendary in special operations circles. She reported having a clear shot on the primary target at a range of 1,847 meters. Environmental conditions were within acceptable parameters, and she had confirmed positive identification through her scope. Morrison granted immediate authorization for engagement. The shot that followed would be discussed in sniper schools for years afterward. The distance exceeded the normal engagement range for even the most advanced rifle systems, and the environmental conditions included shifting winds and temperature gradients that complicated ballistic calculations. Morrison watched through his spotting scope as Vasquez made minute adjustments to her position, accounting for factors that most people couldn't even perceive. The Barrett MRAD's distinctive report echoed across the valley as Vasquez fired. Morrison immediately shifted his observation to the target area, watching as Nazir's figure collapsed beside the vehicle. The precision of the shot was immediately apparent, and secondary explosions from the improvised explosive devices in the vehicle confirmed the target's identity. Years of planning and preparation had culminated in a single, perfectly executed shot. The enemy's response was immediate and violent. Security personnel began firing in all directions, trying to identify the source of the sniper fire while attempting to extract the remaining high-value targets from the compound. Morrison coordinated with the other sniper teams to maintain pressure while avoiding unnecessary casualties among the lower-level personnel. Team Alpha engaged enemy personnel attempting to establish overwatch positions on the eastern ridgelines. Their shots were equally precise, neutralizing threats before they could bring effective fire on coalition positions. The disciplined fire control demonstrated by all teams reflected months of training and the professional standards that defined Special Operations Forces. Team Bravo focused on vehicle interdiction, disabling escape routes, and preventing the remaining terrorist leaders from fleeing the area. Their position allowed them to engage vehicles at long range while maintaining concealment from enemy observation. Morrison watched with satisfaction as their coordinated fires effectively sealed off the primary escape routes. The battle continued for nearly 2 hours as enemy reinforcements arrived from surrounding areas. Morrison coordinated air support and artillery fires to suppress enemy positions while maintaining overwatch protection for the sniper teams. The precision required to provide supporting fires without endangering friendly forces demanded constant communication and careful target deconfliction. Throughout the engagement, Vasquez continued to provide critical intelligence on enemy movements and positions. Her elevated position allowed her to observe activities that were invisible to other elements, and her accurate reports enabled Morrison to coordinate effective countermeasures against enemy attempts to flank coalition positions. Her value extended far beyond her precision shooting capabilities. As the afternoon wore on, enemy resistance began to collapse under the combined pressure of sniper fires, air support, and artillery. Morrison received reports that the surviving terrorist leaders had been eliminated or captured, and intelligence personnel were already beginning to exploit materials recovered from the compound. The primary mission objectives had been achieved with minimal coalition casualties. The extraction phase required the same level of precision that had characterized the insertion and engagement phases. Each sniper team had to be recovered from positions that were now known to enemy forces, necessitating careful coordination with helicopter crews and security elements. Morrison monitored the sequential extractions while maintaining overwatch with the remaining teams. Team Charlie's extraction was the most complex due to their elevated position and the challenging terrain surrounding their location. Morrison listened as Vasquez coordinated with the helicopter crew, providing precise guidance for the extraction aircraft while maintaining security for her team. Her calm professionalism under pressure was evident even in these final moments of the operation. As the last helicopter departed the target area, Morrison reflected on the exceptional performance he had witnessed throughout the day. The operation had achieved every primary objective while demonstrating the capabilities that made Special Operations Forces uniquely effective. The precision shooting, tactical coordination, and professional discipline displayed by all teams represented the highest standards of military excellence. The flight back to Camp Whiskey provided time for initial after-action discussions among the team leaders. Morrison found himself particularly interested in Vasquez's perspective on the engagement, knowing that her shot would become a case study for future sniper training. Her technical analysis of the ballistic challenges and environmental factors revealed the depth of expertise that had made such precision possible. The debriefing sessions that followed would analyze every aspect of the operation, from initial intelligence development through final extraction. Morrison knew that the lessons learned would be incorporated into training programs and tactical doctrine for future operations. The success achieved by the sniper teams would influence special operations planning for years to come. As the teams began to clean and maintain their equipment, Morrison took time to observe the quiet satisfaction that marked successful operators after a challenging mission. These professionals had faced extreme dangers and overcome significant obstacles to achieve their objectives. Their dedication to excellence and commitment to their teammates had made the difference between success and failure in a high-stakes environment. The formal debriefing began 3 hours after the last helicopter touched down at Camp Whiskey. Morrison sat in the operations center surrounded by maps, computer screens, and the detailed analysis that would document every aspect of the mission for future reference. Intelligence personnel were already processing the materials recovered from the target compound, while weapons specialists examined the performance data from each engagement. Vasquez entered the briefing room with the same quiet professionalism that had marked her performance throughout the operation. Her equipment had been cleaned and secured, her weapon system returned to armory condition despite the challenging conditions it had endured. Morrison noticed that she carried a small notebook, undoubtedly filled with observations and technical notes that would contribute to the comprehensive after-action report. The technical analysis of her shot was staggering even by special operations standards. The ballistic computer confirmed a target distance of 1,847 meters under conditions that included variable winds, temperature gradients, and atmospheric pressure changes. The precision required to achieve target effect at such distance represented the absolute pinnacle of sniper capabilities, requiring mastery of skills that took years to develop. Morrison found himself studying Vasquez as she participated in the technical discussions. Her analysis was methodical and precise, focusing on environmental factors and equipment performance rather than personal achievement. She spoke about wind measurement techniques, ballistic coefficient calculations, and scope adjustments with the authority of someone who understood every variable that affected precision shooting. What impressed Morrison most was her perspective on the human elements of the engagement. Vasquez discussed the importance of breathing control, natural point of aim, and trigger technique with the same attention to detail she applied to ballistic calculations. Her understanding of the psychological factors that affected performance under stress demonstrated why she had achieved such exceptional results throughout her career. The discussion eventually turned to the broader tactical implications of the operation. Intelligence analysis indicated that eliminating Nazir had disrupted a network of terrorist cells planning coordinated attacks across the region. The secondary effects of the mission would likely save dozens of coalition lives and prevent significant civilian casualties from the improvised explosive devices that Nazir had been producing. Morrison listened as intelligence personnel outlined the materials recovered from the compound. Documents, electronic devices, and communications equipment would provide insights into terrorist networks that extended far beyond the immediate target area. The success of the sniper teams had enabled ground forces to secure these materials before enemy personnel could destroy them. The psychological impact on enemy forces was equally significant. The precision demonstrated by the sniper teams had shattered the sense of security that terrorist leaders had felt in their mountain strongholds. Intelligence reports indicated that other high-value targets were already changing their movement patterns and security procedures in response to the demonstrated capabilities of coalition snipers. As the formal briefing concluded, Morrison asked Vasquez to remain for additional discussion. He was curious about her perspective on the operational challenges and interested in her recommendations for future similar missions. The conversation that followed provided insights into the mindset of an exceptional operator that would influence Morrison's leadership approach for years afterward. Vasquez spoke about the importance of continuous training and equipment familiarization. Her success, she explained, resulted from thousands of hours spent on shooting ranges, in simulators, and studying ballistic data. The precision shooting community was small and intensely competitive, with operators constantly sharing techniques and innovations that pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible. The conversation turned to the personal costs of such specialized roles. Morrison had known many snipers throughout his career, and he understood that the psychological demands could be overwhelming. The isolation required for precision shooting, combined with the life-and-death consequences of each engagement, created pressures that not every operator could handle successfully. Vasquez discussed these challenges with remarkable insight and maturity. She spoke about the support systems that helped operators maintain psychological balance, from peer relationships within the sniper community to professional counseling resources provided by special operations commands. Her approach to managing stress and maintaining focus demonstrated the comprehensive preparation that enabled sustained high-level performance. The technical discussion that followed revealed the depth of Vasquez's expertise across multiple disciplines. She analyzed atmospheric conditions with the knowledge of a meteorologist, discussed human physiology with the understanding of a medical professional, and examined equipment performance with the precision of an engineer. Precision shooting demanded expertise far beyond simple marksmanship. Morrison found himself particularly interested in Vasquez's approach to continuous improvement. She maintained detailed logs of every engagement, analyzing performance data to identify areas for enhancement. Her commitment to learning extended beyond personal performance to include studying the techniques used by other exceptional operators and incorporating proven innovations into her own methods. The conversation eventually moved beyond technical considerations to discuss the broader purpose that motivated such dedication. Vasquez spoke passionately about the responsibility she felt toward the ground forces who depended on sniper overwatch for protection. Every training session and equipment check was motivated by her determination to never let down the people who trusted her with their lives. Morrison recognized in Vasquez the qualities that defined truly exceptional special operations personnel. Technical mastery was certainly important, but it was her character and commitment to the mission that set her apart from even highly skilled operators. Her dedication extended beyond personal achievement to encompass a genuine desire to serve something larger than herself. As their conversation continued, Morrison noticed again the coin that hung from Vasquez's gear. The curiosity that had been building throughout their interactions finally prompted him to ask about its significance. The response he received provided insights into Vasquez's background that explained much about her exceptional performance and professional approach. The coin, Vasquez explained, was a unique recognition awarded by Special Operations Command for sustained exceptional performance in combat operations. Unlike standard military decorations that recognized specific actions, this coin acknowledged operators who had demonstrated consistent excellence across multiple deployments and diverse mission sets. The criteria for receiving such recognition were deliberately vague, but the community understood its significance. Morrison had heard rumors about such recognition programs but had never encountered someone who possessed one of these coins. The implications were staggering. Vasquez's coin indicated that her exceptional performance during the current operation was not an anomaly, but rather representative of sustained excellence that had been recognized at the highest levels of Special Operations Command. The discussion that followed revealed aspects of Vasquez's career that explained her remarkable capabilities. Previous deployments had included operations across multiple theaters, working with different units and facing diverse challenges. Her experience encompassed everything from urban combat environments to high-altitude mountain operations, each deployment adding to her knowledge base and skill set. The number mentioned in connection with her coin was particularly remarkable. 87 verified operations represented a level of operational experience that few snipers achieved in entire careers. Morrison found himself recalculating his assessment of Vasquez's capabilities, recognizing that he was dealing with someone whose expertise extended far beyond even his initial high expectations. Each of those operations, Vasquez explained, had contributed to her development as a precision shooter and special operations professional. Early deployments had focused on fundamental skills development, while later operations had involved increasingly complex scenarios that demanded innovation and adaptation. The learning curve had been steep, but each challenge had provided opportunities for growth. Morrison asked about specific techniques and innovations that Vasquez had developed throughout her career. Her response revealed a deep understanding of the evolution of sniper tactics and equipment. She had participated in testing new rifle systems, scope technologies, and ammunition designs. Her feedback had influenced equipment procurement decisions that affected the entire special operations community. The conversation also revealed Vasquez's role as a mentor for developing snipers. Her experience made her a valuable resource for training programs, and she regularly participated in advanced courses where she shared techniques and insights with the next generation of precision shooters. Morrison recognized the multiplier effect of such knowledge transfer, understanding how exceptional operators influenced capabilities across the entire force. The technical discussion that followed demonstrated Vasquez's expertise in areas that extended beyond precision shooting. She had cross-trained with explosive ordnance disposal teams, intelligence personnel, and communications specialists. Her broad knowledge base enabled her to contribute effectively to complex operations that required coordination across multiple specialties. Morrison found himself reflecting on the leadership challenges involved in managing such exceptional personnel. Operators like Vasquez required different approaches than typical team members. Their expertise often exceeded that of their immediate supervisors, and their experience provided perspectives that could influence operational planning at strategic levels. Effective leaders had to balance utilization of such capabilities with development of broader team capabilities. The conversation revealed Vasquez's thoughtful approach to these leadership challenges. She understood the importance of supporting team cohesion while maximizing individual contributions. Her approach involved sharing knowledge freely while avoiding any suggestion of superiority over teammates. The balance required emotional intelligence and maturity that complemented her technical skills. As their discussion continued into the evening, Morrison gained deeper appreciation for the comprehensive preparation that enabled exceptional performance under extreme conditions. Vasquez's success resulted from years of dedicated training, continuous learning, and unwavering commitment to excellence. Her achievements reflected not just natural talent, but sustained effort and professional dedication. The broader implications of the day's operation became clearer as Morrison considered the combined effects of exceptional individual performance and effective team coordination. The success achieved by all sniper teams demonstrated how proper planning, adequate resources, and professional execution could overcome seemingly impossible challenges. The lessons learned would influence special operations doctrine for years to come. Morrison's final conversation with Vasquez focused on future operational challenges and evolving enemy tactics. The terrorist networks they faced were constantly adapting, requiring continuous innovation from special operations forces. Maintaining technological and tactical advantages required sustained investment in training, equipment, and personnel development. The discussion concluded with Morrison's expression of appreciation for Vasquez's exceptional performance and professional example. Her contributions to the mission's success extended beyond her precision shooting to include leadership, mentoring, and technical innovation. The impact of operators like Vasquez resonated throughout the special operations community, influencing capabilities and standards across multiple units. As Vasquez departed to rejoin her team, Morrison found himself reflecting on the extraordinary day and the remarkable individuals he had the privilege to command. The success of the operation represented the culmination of years of training, preparation, and dedication by personnel who represented the finest traditions of special operations forces. The final reports from the day's operation would document technical achievements and tactical successes. But Morrison knew the true significance lay in the human performance that had made everything possible. Operators like Vasquez demonstrated what could be achieved when exceptional individuals were properly trained, equipped, and led. Their example inspired others to pursue similar levels of excellence. The Barrett MRAD that Vasquez had wielded with such devastating effect was eventually returned to the armory. But the impact of her performance would influence sniper training and doctrine for years to come. The coin that marked her exceptional service would continue to serve as a reminder of what sustained dedication and professional excellence could achieve in defense of freedom and security. Morrison's final entry in the operational log noted the exceptional performance of all participants while specifically highlighting innovations and techniques that should be incorporated into future training programs. The day had demonstrated the capabilities that made Special Operations Forces uniquely effective, and the lessons learned would benefit future operations across multiple theaters and mission sets. The legacy of the operation would extend far beyond the immediate tactical success, influencing the development of precision shooting capabilities and the recognition of exceptional performance across the special operations community.